So Justin is back on the channel to investigate the gay experience even further with this magical instrument called the tarot, which I really like and Justin really likes. And I have this new tarot deck. And within
Hmm.
this new tarot deck, I actually have 80 cards. There's two extra cards in this
Oh,
deck.
wow.
Yeah.
And can you share what those extra cards are? And for those of you that don't know, the usual tarot deck has 78, so that's what he's referring to. But what are those two additional ones?
So the two additional ones, there's one which is called The Artist,
Okay.
which arguably is quite similar to the Magician, I think.
Is it part of what they consider major arcana, or are
Yeah.
they outside of that? Okay.
And then the other tarot card that comes with it is called The Well,
Ooh.
which arguably it's a bit, I suppose it's quite Jungian in the sense of like the well is a symbol or a signal that there is something to discover in your unconscious. Like you have to go deep into the well to find this answer, basically.
So is
Which I
it
quite
both
like.
sub, and unconscious self? Is it like the deepest parts of the whatever the self, the soul is, we could say?
I mean, I don't really read the book, but
Fair. But that's what you would interpret it as, some variation of
I'm
that.
going to read the book.
Oh, cool. Please.
I don't really read the book, but I'm going to read the book. The well is the birthplace of ideas, inspiration, and transformation. All things are birthed from this creatix whose knowledge flows freely to those who seek it. And so upright is nurturing opportunity, nature, creativity, reverse is destructions, endings, cold and stagnant. And it's a beautiful card, you know, it's really nice.
Yeah, that is beautiful.
I mean, it's a beautiful deck. It's a great deck.
Yeah.
And what does it say for the artist? Just to have clarified that. The artist is the vessel of creation. This card signifies humankind and shows when you need to open to the knowledge that is available if you stop and set aside the distractions of the human condition and listen. Visionary, interpreter, creation, passionate that's upright, reverse is unstable, judgmental, restless, and greedy. Which I quite like. You know, it's quite good. They're nice cards. And
Yeah.
I suppose it's a bit because it has like these wings on their feet, which I guess is like Hermes, no?
Yeah. Mercury, Hermes. Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. Mercury, Hermes, that kind of energy basically. So yeah, it's interesting that there's two extra cards in this tarot deck, which I didn't realize until I suddenly pulled the card and I was like,
Yeah.
I don't know what this card is.
Interesting. And I like your idea that, the artist is reminiscent at least of the magician. That feels
I think
right.
so.
I would say that the artist also can be the fool. In other words, it's ever present along the journey of the major arcana. And I
Yeah.
think to take from that explanation was the pausing. Because often a fool, if you will,
Mm.
rushes in instead of taking that moment to assess and see what's around them, etc.
Yeah. It's the moment to pause, which is it's like that Polai did with the sound meditation, which is the Four of Swords,
Yes.
the High Priestess, and whatever the last one was, which I now can't remember. The Sun. Um,
It's the
and I suppose the Four of Swords is pausing, right? He's
Yes,
pausing, listening, going deeper, which is sometimes hard to do, but we yet have to do it.
right,
Even
right.
those of us who are avid meditators gets distracted by the human condition.
And this is going to be easy to say what I'm going to say because I certainly don't practice it on a daily basis. I'm aiming to, right? But in this body, I probably won't get there perfectly, whatever that means. And that is a split second, even, or just a fraction of a second can be enough of a pause depending on the situation. In other
Yeah.
words, we sometimes think we need an hour or 2 hours or a whole weekend or something, and those are lovely. Take them when you can and when you need them. But oftentimes we have to, as you said, decide and or take a pause before answering within a few seconds.
Hmm. And what we do when we come together is that we talk about the tarot. Justin and I, we both identify as gay.
I like
I
the
don't,
weight that you put on that word. That was good.
gay. Um, and both Justin and I are also, I suppose, arguably what you could call quote unquote spiritual people, right? We walk that path through life, and I suppose we, in so many ways, do have a sense of that. There is a reason why in this specific incarnation that we are gay, right?
Yeah.
There is a reason for that, and I think that both you and I have, I suppose, come to terms with the uniqueness of that, and also are hopefully, like we spoke in the previous episode, no longer shameful or guilt-ridden because of that uniqueness. If anything, we see that uniqueness as a strength.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's a constant work because we live in a world where that's not always the case. And so now I can't remember. I said a beautiful question before we came on about the question that we were going to ask the tarot today. It was something such as how to, or what do we, how do we uncover our gay gifts? Is that what I said?
Yes.
That is what I said. I remember. It wasn't that
Excellent.
profound, but it was sort of
Well,
reasonably
what I
profound.
love about the question, honestly, is the word uncover because it's there. And whether it's society or, your family, unfortunately, or religion or whatever it is that covered it up, your own shame, it could be, right? There, within every gay person, there are unique traits and abilities and gifts. There's a reason to your point from before as to why, in at least this incarnation, here we are as gay men in this case, right?
Yeah.
Um, and even if there was struggle that came with that, which there definitely was, on some level, perhaps through that struggle comes courage and comes goodness and joy that wouldn't have come forward in a different path. And so, what
Yeah.
else then is there specific to offer as gay men?
Yeah. And if you are a straight dude watching this video, I want to tell about um yesterday I was watching this video on Instagram, which was by this straight dude, but he's probably more on the sort of effeminate, sensitive side, right? And so he didn't come into this world sort of your stereotypical, And he also has a unique story to share and a way of moving through life, which is perhaps different to the more common, typical straight experience, right? And I think that whatever our uniqueness is, it's important to become aware of that and not be afraid of sharing that, and then perhaps doing what the hermit does in the tarot, which is to guide a light for others. Whatever that uniqueness is. Obviously, today we will be speaking specifically about the gay experience, but it can be anyone's experience in that way, and not feeling shameful or guilty for whatever that uniqueness is.
Exactly. And I think it's great you said the hermit in what is a hermit year of 2025 as we're recording this. So it's appropriate.
Oh, yeah, that is true. It is. And I'm squeaking. Um, are we going to do our usual thing where we pull two cards and yeah, how do we uncover our gay gifts? All
Yes.
right.
What are some
I'm gonna
insights?
I'm gonna go first this time.
Please.
All right. What are the two cards that I am pulling for this question? Your gay gifts. Hopefully there's a rainbow here somewhere, right?
We're looking at you, Ten of Cups. Yeah.
Ah, that's nice. So the first card that I pulled was the Ace of Wands.
Oh, wow. That
You
is
know?
beautiful.
That is beautiful, isn't it?
Yes.
So you can see it's like holding that wand, spade, tree, and as you can see, there's like flowers growing, and this hand is like holding on, and I suppose there's a fjord or a lake in the background, and there's a castle, and there's a forest, and there's so much happening on this card, and there's this sort of colorful cloud all around it. And what is your interpretation of the Ace of Wands here, Justin?
I would be curious to ask you a question first, and then I will gladly share what comes to heart and mind and soul. Do
Sure.
you see the hand on that ace as the hand of the divine, the hand of the magician? How would you read just the hand that's holding the wand?
Ooh. I mean, I was gonna go that it's the hand of the gay person.
Oh, there you go. The person who's we're talking to. Great.
The person that we are talking to.
Mhm.
What you are, without sounding, what you are touching will grow.
Right. We'll just leave it there. No, but that's really beautifully said, honestly. So I would look at the Ace of Wands as the fresh newness of magic.
Mm-hmm.
Wands energy. It contains all that energy is, including just what we would just say is energy. But it's the creative, it's the sexual, it's the spiritual. It is a
Mm.
magic wand that we as gay men in particular have. And whatever we touch, wherever we put our energy, it grows and expands in accordance to that. And
Mm.
so if we're putting our energy into shame from the past or, horrible messages in the present
Mm.
or fear of the future, like then that's where our energy goes, right? And that's what we're pouring more into. But uncovering that and realizing that the magic is underneath any of those spells that we might have been under, the magic is ours. And we have the ability to touch people and touch the world in a very magical, unique, and special way. So the challenge and the fun opportunity for us as gay men is where are we going to put that energy? And for some of us, it's in art, whatever that might mean. For some of us, it's
Mm.
relationships. You can do it as the a barista at Starbucks just as much as you could someone on a film set, right? It's about what and who is around you and what are you open to transmitting into the world through your special magic.
I agree. And I mean, there's a bit of a stereotype here because obviously it won't be true for everybody, but so many gay men are hairdressers, florists, other types of creatives on stage, you name it, there will be a gay man. And I think that I suppose there's something about not being afraid of your gay gifts or your
Right.
creative gifts, I suppose, and yeah, allowing that creativity to flourish, right? In whatever shape or form it wants to show up. And I suppose like on this card, there's a castle in the background, and I think there's yeah, just allowing it to shine, and if other people don't like it, that's okay.
I think so. The other thing that came just to heart with when you were talking is with magic or what we think of as magic, and we only use the word magic really because we can't understand it, right? So it's this process that's sort of beyond us, at least in the moment.
Mm,
um, is the idea of change and transformation and transmutation. A magician
mm,
has the ability to seemingly turn little bunny rabbit into a frog or whatever it is. I think we as gay men and gay people can do that as well. We could walk into a situation and transmit something special, transport people to another place, bring light into a darker space, etc. And how we do that can be through our persona, through our actions, through the kind of work we're doing in a myriad of ways. And even something as almost cheeky as saying a hairdresser, think about what they do. They take someone who, because our hair is related to how we feel about ourselves, let's be honest. And
mm.
they're taking someone and showing them the beauty that was there the whole time by like helping the person that they're working on sculpt that. And isn't
Yeah,
that a beautiful example in a fun way of what we can all do as gay men?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. And the second card that I pulled, I'm always slightly unsure about this card, so maybe you can see where we take
Hmm.
it first, but it's still really nice, you know? So we have the Knight of Pentacles,
Hmm.
and on the shield, there's like loads of flowers, there's a tree in the background, there's a field, and she's like looking steadfastly into the distance,
Yeah,
you know?
I love that. And, I'll tell you, so a knight, especially for this topic, I think is really feels really appropriate. A knight is on an errand, right? They're on a mission from, we could say metaphorically, the queen and the king. In other words, the feminine and the masculine energies that are above them for the purpose that we're talking about it metaphorically. And so if pentacles are the physical and whatever we're bringing into the physical world, we're on that mission embodying the beautiful combination of masculine and feminine. That to me is a great definition of what power
Mm.
and magic a gay man has. And I think we need to remember that it's not only what you produce into the physical world, whether that's uh, the kind of workshop that you would do, Tor, whether it's a breath workshop or a tarot reading you would do, or some other kind of spiritual, or even quote unquote non-spiritual thing,
Mm.
just person meeting with you one on one, or as a group. It's also our physical bodies. And there can be an overemphasis, as we know, in gay male culture of working only on the physical body, almost to the detriment of what we would call the soul. But a real knight is an embodiment of all of that. They're taking
Mm.
the spiritual side, the emotional, the mental, and they're putting all of that into their physical self, but also then the world, the physical world as well.
Mm. I like how you said they were like on a mission. And I
Mhm.
think that, I suppose, you know, it's like they're on a mission to bring that creative energy of the Ace of Wands into the world and sort of making it into something that is, I suppose, arguably tangible,
Yes. Yeah.
right?
Well said.
So it's about taking that sort of more etheric energy, the God force, call it whatever you like, intuition, and then bring that into the world and not being, again, not being afraid of that mission
Right.
and that
Exactly.
task that you've been given.
Yeah. Embracing that mission. It's often said, at least in traditional teaching about tarot, that the Knight of Pentacles is very slow. But
Mm.
instead of looking at that word slow, how about that they're patient and they're specific, and maybe we could even say precise about what they're bringing into the world. They're not just gonna
Mm.
throw their physical self any old place, right? They're not going to just throw that coin, if you want to call it coin instead of pentacles, just out into the field and hope something happens. They're going to be methodical and precise in what they're doing.
Mm. I like that. All right, your turn.
Beautiful. So, as usual, I'm going to have you be the one that chooses them, but I will shuffle them first. Then we will have you pick two cards. Do one more. This is exciting because, of course, I have no idea what's going to pop out and how it will work in harmony with the Ace of Wands and then the Knight of Pentacles. So I'm going to start flipping the cards. I can't see them, and just tell me when to stop twice. Are you ready? All right, here we go. Tell me when to stop. Card number one.
Stop.
Okay, perfect. And card number two. Tell me when.
Stop.
And card number two, for whatever reason, wanted to stick to my fingers. And whenever that happens, I always kind of flag it for myself as like being of perhaps even greater importance. Maybe it's even more of a challenge. I don't know. We'll see what the card is. But the card that we got, which I will ask you about first, is, oh, interesting, the Nine of Wands.
Mm.
How would you read that for an uncovering of gay gifts, especially when we have that ace?
I think that gay men sometimes have the need to prove themselves at their own detriment. And I think that sometimes by needing to justify our existence that can lead to, I suppose, not blocked, but it can make it harder to actually access the real gift. So it's like something I wrote this morning on my Instagram, which was something such as tension is the biggest blockage to hear the whispers of your intuition, right? Tension will always get in the way. And I think that tension can obviously be created in many different ways, but it's also if we overdo it, overwork, anything can create tension. And so I think that, I suppose, as gay men, it's also about creating spaciousness in your life. Every moment doesn't have to be filled with something. To
I
access
love that.
those real deeper gifts, there needs to be spaciousness.
Oh, I love that. Do you feel that tension in a person's life that they bring it on and accept it? Does that make sense? It's caused by other factors, of course, most of the time. But do you think we have a choice in whether to lean into the tension that's around us? Does that make sense to ask it that
Absolutely.
way?
Yeah, yeah. We have tons of choice.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Interesting. That's powerful too.
yeah.
Yeah, that's powerful too. I would say of the nine of wands that there's two things, one of which has never occurred to me in looking at the card. And for gay men, there can be a sense of isolation, there could be a sense of loneliness. And I've never looked at the
Mm,
card that way, but it kind of feels that way with the way Pamela drew the image there. He's been
yeah,
beat up, and he's like, there's kind of nobody around. What the hell am I doing? There's a little bit of that, perhaps.
yeah.
Um, and I think that's why the typical interpretation of the card is one of resilience, of hanging in
Mm,
there. And that certainly applies to us as gay men, whether you feel alone and your truth is you are not, which is part of the reason why Tor is doing this, on his channels to remind us that we're not and to come together as a group, even over this video, to say, oh, wow, those are insights that help unlock, whatever that is, in this case, gay gifts. So I think this is a car that's championing us forward to say, hang in there, like keep going, regardless of what is happening around us. Sometimes, as you said, even within our own gay community and the focus that shifts from gay gifts to maybe other things that either cause tension, to borrow your word, or cause us to lose the focus or minimize or shrink in our shining forth with our gifts.
mm.
Yeah. Card number two is, oh, interesting, the Justice card. How do you think
Ooh,
that applies to unfurling our gay gifts?
justice.
I mean, my name's built in there, so of course it's about me, but just kidding.
Well, there's, of course, as we know, historically been a lot of injustice done to the gay LGBTQIA larger community, and of course, many other
Yeah.
marginalized communities. And I think that it's such a, you can tell people, oh, just move on. Like it's in the past. But then you look towards America and you just think to yourself, is it? And so I think that there is something there about transmuting the pain of the injustices into something that can be deep and beautiful, right?
Mm.
And I think that is what leads to healing, which is, I think, a higher form of justice, whilst at the
There.
same time also not losing sight of that there are people who now want to take away our rights. And so there's it's a bit like what South Park is doing with Trump, right? There's something fun in the way that they're creating justice, I guess, around his existence, right? So it's interesting But I think largely it's about transmuting the pain of the injustices of the past into something that can be beautiful in the present.
I love that. Yeah, I almost don't even want to speak to it because I think that's so perfect. But I love what you said that it's a higher form of justice, that we may
Mm,
not get the justice we deserve as
mm,
humans, as gay people on Earth. Hopefully we do. And it's also saying keep striving for that, sure.
mm,
Um, I'll use this verse from the Bible because I think it's appropriate here. It's like when Jesus is asked about should we pay taxes or not, he says, "Give to Caesar what is Caesar's," right? Which I think is a great
mm.
question. But I think that's what applies here. It's like, yeah, let earthly justice be done and fight for it as it's appropriate, but
Yeah.
realize there are bigger things going on than whatever a government decides in a given moment. And to your point about the United States right now, unfortunately, things that seem locked in as law can change. And so it's to be resilient, to borrow our nine of wands, in those fights and not to just think that now we can skate by. Um, I think for us as gay men too, looking at justice, it's important to face ourselves and to face the real truth about ourselves, not the truth we've
Mm,
been. And there's a sense of integrity, which is wholeness, there in the card, and that's probably achieved by, those scales and weighing everything against the balance of what is actually true and what is it that I've been told is true.
yeah.
And so as we know, those things certainly don't line up.
Mm, I think that was a really, I think it's also something about justice, which is that if you decide to lean into your gay gifts, you will get justice,
Yes.
you know? Because I see justice as quite a positive, uplifting, it's gonna be fine kind of
Hmm.
card. You know, it might seem troubling right now. It might seem that you are, what is that Greek god which keeps on pushing the stone up against
Right.
what's it called though? I was hoping you would know.
Oh, the god that keeps pushing the rock up the mountain and it rolls back.
Yeah.
It's not Prometheus, right? Because I
No,
know he
because he's the one with the
on the rocks, right? That's trapped there. Yeah.
I can't
Um,
remember, but it's that one. The stone won't always keep on coming back down. It'll change.
yes, well said.
That's what I also think sometimes with justice is that the effort is worth it.
Hmm.
That's what I mean, I guess. Yeah.
And
And I
there's a
think
phrase
that
you're familiar with too, which reminds me of what you said about the rock, and that is the wheels of justice. If it's a wheel, that means
mm,
it goes around and can come back on itself, right?
precisely. And so, we've spoken about, the why. Maybe we can also just maybe we pull a tarot card or it's more about our own experience of what is the tangible thing. Now we sort of philosophically spoken about our
Yeah.
gay gifts, but like what did what did you do to what do you think is your gay gift and how did you discover it?
Oof, that's a great question. I can tell you where it began, and that is with a very challenging time to come to an acceptance of myself as a gay man. Certainly, I wouldn't have been sharing gay gifts when I was ashamed of those things that made me gay, um, which ultimately I chose before incarnation, which is beautiful, and I've come to that now. But at the time, it's like, oh, get this out of me. Let me get rid of this, as though someone's able to do that, which of course we're not, because it's an innate part of us, just like any other part of us. But after that process, then, for me, it was kind of like I didn't care who knew, because there was nothing anyone was going to say or do to me that I already hadn't said horrible things to myself. So I knew I didn't need to accept any more of that. Um, so for me, partly it was living my life openly and not being ashamed at all of who knew that about me. It didn't mean I walked around like proclaiming it and yelling it. We don't need to do that with sexuality anyway. But where appropriate, I had no problem saying, well, it's men that I'm attracted to, or whatever the context would be. And as far as the gift, I think that came from that and understanding that if I had to boil it down to a sentence, one of my top gay gifts is being able to share story, whether it's my story or a story or the story of a tarot reading or whatever it is, and hold space for that as a gay man for people. I remember one of the very first things that I ever did was I got an opportunity to speak to a battered youth, violent youth group who had never spoken to an openly gay person. And it was
Mm.
intimidating because there's 12 little criminals sitting around a semicircle and there's me and they're asking me like the really, brutal questions because they don't know. But it was so great to just hold space, not judge what they're asking, and know that it was coming from a place of hopefully a little bit of enlightenment because they hadn't had that opportunity and they were curious even if they came in with a judgment over whatever that meant. Maybe they walked away going, huh, that's not exactly the embodiment and the persona and the type of person that I thought a gay person would be, right? So that's what I would say in a nutshell. But the discovery process was difficult, and then but once that light was able to shine, then hopefully I keep it shining pretty brightly.
Mm. So it's storytelling.
Yeah, a story in the grandest sense. It can be a literal story, it could be the story of me, but also can be guiding people toward things like beauty, towards things like truth, towards things like, okay, you've been told this, but what if it isn't that? And just getting people to think really on a deeper level, because as human beings, we're often reluctant to do that because it means work and it might mean change. And,
Mm.
Mark Twain said the only one that likes change is a wet baby. And I think that's kind of true. So even though change is a part of us all the time. But
Yeah.
so how about for you?
Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that, and especially that story about the criminals. I think that's really brilliant because, yeah, they might not have ever met a gay man in their entire life, and there you are. I think that's really great. What is my gay gift? Well, I suppose it's space holding in a way, right? And I think that, attention that I always not battle with, but I suppose in so many ways battle with is in the sense of that, I when I was like 22 and a half, 23, I sort of largely changed my life in a sense of that I stopped being the kind of gay man that like goes clubbing and goes out and is sort of part of that sort of almost gay industry, right? Because I was like, this is not going to be my life. This is not how I want to live. It's not what I want to do. Um,
And was there a moment where you came to that? Like,
mm,
you'll hear the phrase in addiction stuff, and not to say you were an addict at all, but this phrase, I mean, I hit rock bottom. Like, did you have a rock bottom moment, or was it just like, this
well,
doesn't work?
I think I had two moments.
Okay.
So it was like 6 a.m. in the morning. I was
Uh-huh.
at Fire in London in Vauxhall, and I was talking to somebody, and they were talking about, and I think they were 35, 40, like late 30s, and they were like, "Oh yeah, I woke up at 4 a.m. to go to Fire when that opens at 6 a.m." And I was like, "So you went to bed, and then you woke up, and then
Purposely
you
got
came
up.
here?"
Right.
And I suppose technically there's nothing different with that when going out in the evening before and like going out. But in my brain at the time, I was like, that's fucked up.
Hmm.
That's really weird.
Was it weird because like they made that a priority?
They made that a priority. Like that's their life.
Got it. Yep.
And I think when you're 21, it's like who cares? But
Yeah.
when you're like 35, 40, like surely you have a career and you have things to do and you have things to build and things to create. And that's just I just looked around and I saw so many people who were like 15, 20 years older than me. And this is the life that they were creating. And I suppose in so many ways, like and I really try really hard not to sound moralistic or judgmental. But I was also like, is this it? Like, is that it? Is this it? Like, I love clubbing and dancing and being out and moving, and maybe they had a super creative life outside of this. But I'm like, really? And also my grandmother had a heart to heart with me when I visited her for Christmas, and she was like, I think you're in a bit of a bad road. This should change. I was like, okay, grandmother, it's going to change. So it was like those two things
Hmm.
happening together really made me change it. And so I think that, and it's, I mean, I think that, yeah, so one of my gay gifts is space holding because that's what I do for work. But I also think that there is, and I haven't really leaned into it, and I don't know if I ever will, but there is also something about showing gay men that it's totally fine to go clubbing. Go for it. I went to a music festival last weekend and it was really fun. Daytime, I was out dancing, sober. Um, but you can also spend your time building something really interesting and not spend your weekend escaping and numbing yourself because you hate your life. Do you see what I mean?
So what I'm getting from you, and correct me if I'm wrong, please, but is it's the intentionality of why you're doing a thing for one. And
Yeah.
so if you're the 35-year-old and you're a very real example, we'll just say they're 35, and like they're numbing themselves from the possibility of their life, whether it's the creative life or the family
Mm.
that they had or whatever, by focusing on this external thing, like that this club and this night and this place and this dance is going to give me X, Y, or Z. That's where you have a disconnect too, right?
Yes.
And same we could say if I'm, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, that's why I want you to tell me. The same would be true of maybe drugs and alcohol as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's precisely what I said on my podcast, on one of my solo podcast episode. It's all about intentionality, right?
Yeah,
Why? Why are you doing this?
yeah,
Yeah, like I
yeah,
said, like I was out, it was really fun. I was dancing for like 5 hours, and then I went home at 6 p.m.
yeah.
and I was in bed by 10,
And it
you
was
know?
perfect.
And it was great. And I really enjoyed that. I was totally sober. And that's totally fine, you know? But it's all about intentionality and the why you're doing something, basically. I think that's the thing. But I suppose what I'm leading into is I suppose like what you and I are doing here is probably the most sort of intentionally gay content that I've really made consistently, I think. And yeah, I do think that there is a gift in on itself to show other gay men in a wholesome, loving, compassionate way without being moralistic or judgmental. That, you know, if you want to choose something different, you can do that. You can have both in moderation. That's also fine.
Well, and that's what we were talking about when we first started. And, one of the first sessions we did was about hookup culture and hooking
Yeah.
up. It's not a judgment to say do or don't. And that's not what the tarot was saying either. It's what is your intention when you're doing it? And is that really going to fulfill you if
Mm.
fulfillment is really the thing you're looking for, whether that's in the form of intimacy or real love or whatever it might be,
Mm.
or just I want to get out of my head because I don't want to face myself, so I'm going to hook up with this person to escape. Again, similar to the drugs alcohol thing, it's not a moralistic judgment over the action or the alcohol, because you could escape at the gym, that seems like a
Yeah.
better activity, and yet it isn't if the best thing to do was to sit in silence and face whatever is coming up, right? It
Yeah.
again it depends on intentionality.
So if everybody who's listening was going to get a journaling question, Mr. Author over there, Mr. Writer, what would be a good journaling prompt for them to think about uncovering their gay gifts?
Yes. So I think it's what are my gay gifts, but I want to offer a tool and how to help uncover that rather than just a
Mm,
general question. think about what people say about you. Think about what you actually do, whether it's for your job or for a hobby or otherwise. Think about what you're interested in. You can think about it if it helps, which I find that it does, through an archetypal lens. And you might be like, Justin, what the hell are you talking? Let me explain. So if
Mm.
people say, Tor, you're a really good friend, you're a really great listener. Well, those are two key archetypes that we've just said about Tor. He's a listener and he's a friend. So might those be gay gifts of his? And if you've just heard what he said about holding space, metaphorically, energetically, and archetypally, absolutely that's true of him. He's more than that, but that we could attribute to two of his archetypal gifts that connect to that idea of holding space that he knows about himself. So have fun with the exploration, and again, think of those things. It can help to look toward what kind of films do you watch, what kind of series, what kind of books. Within that, there are patterns you can see that, like, wow, I'm always led to the underachiever, or I'm always led to the loser that overcomes and becomes the hero, or whatever the storyline is. We have a lot of those things that we tap into without perhaps being super conscious of it, and yet giving yourself the opportunity to write that down and to see it can help unlock of, wow, I'm always attracted to beauty. Everyone comments on my outfits. Great. So it's beauty that you're bringing into the world, and one of your gay gifts is then to shine that as an example.
Hmm. Love that. It's very practical, very down to earth. Something
Yeah,
everybody can do. And I think that it is about getting to know yourself, right? It's like I was with a client yesterday who's asked me, yeah, he is gay. Um, he comes to some of my classes at one of the studios that I work at, and he had to uh, what's it called in English? Anyway, he had to be off work for 2 months because of burnout, basically, because it was like money, success, productivity, drive, and he had taken 2 months off, and during those 2 months, done a real re-evaluation of like his next steps and how he wants to live his life. And actually, it's not all about money. It's about his family. It's about his partner. It's about really connecting more deeply with that and not working himself to death because that led to burnout. And so, and I suppose in so many ways, what you were just talking about is about getting to know yourself and what are your values and allowing those values to become your guiding principles.
Mhm.
And somewhere in there, you will find your gifts and then you should share them.
Right. I think also that exact example goes back to what we were saying about like justice in a way. It's like it isn't necessarily what you've been told you should do. It
Mm,
can be what's really driving you under the surface, right? So if
yeah.
if that if the person, the student, if you will, his drive was you have to just work, 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 and that's what success means, and you'll have everything when you do that. That equation clearly wasn't working for him, and so his body literally went, nope, we're not going to be on that path anymore. And it caused a moment of pause to go, huh, what is it that really matters? And then he's been
Mm,
doing that work, it sounds like, which is amazing. But it doesn't
mm,
always make that kind of more tower, to borrow a tarot term, tower moment of like, I got to take a 2 month hiatus because I'm burning out to necessarily start to discover and uncover, some of the golden things about yourself.
yeah, no, you can do it now. You can do it now. Yeah.
And
You
that's
could,
not a
you could,
judgment on him or any of us that have multiple tower moments in our life. It's part of life, right? So,
yeah, yeah. But you can start now. Thank you so much, as always, Justin, for coming on. I think this is a great way to end it. As always, we haven't discussed what we are going to speak about next time. So the best way to find out is to subscribe, like, hit that notification button, and stay tuned when we come back to explore another facet of the gay experience in the earthly realm through the portal of the tarot.
beautiful. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Bye.